Hi there, it's Phil here. I'm doing the video for this is now for the Anna Wilson Children's Home run by the Salvation Army. Getting justice, getting closure, finding the truth, and getting reunited with the kids from the Anna Wilson Home between 76 and 81. Now, from the previous video which I did, I got to the point where my files hadn't turned up, and I was in a desperate situation of what do I do next. So what I pretty much did in my head was I've got to think about what I'm going to do next, and I was really quite screwed up by my father not arriving, and was to go to the BBC. I contacted the BBC. I was actually expecting to call the BBC and leave an answering message for someone to get back from their journalist team, possibly from their production team, to try and find out if anybody was interested in taking my case on by my files going disappearing under what I thought was very suspicious circumstances. So I got through to the BBC after phoning this number which I found on the internet, and a lady who actually answered the phone. I do not know who she was. She might have been a receptionist, for all I know. She could have been a cleaner. To this day I don't even know her name, but gosh, she listened to my story and she really had ears for me. So after me talking to her for about literally half an hour, I said to her, I just want to deal with this because otherwise I'm not going to be able to deal with it again. And I think in her mind, she thought that maybe I was not in the right place. So I got a knock on the door on Boxing Day. It was Sussex Police knocking on my door. Sussex Police had come around to my door purely because the lady at the BBC was worried for my safety because of what I'd been going through and what I'd been talking about. And Sussex Police came knocking on my door purely to make sure I was okay. Now, I talked about the whole situation, what happened to me while I was at the Anna Wilson Home, and it was really screwing my mind up. I'd lost my files. My files had been lost and I couldn't find my files. So I was really quite panicking. So I went through the whole story with Sussex Police, and I was a bit sort of disappointed with Sussex Police because I talked to them about stuff on the internet which I'd found, about talking about this children's home, and about the abuse which was going on. And the police officer, the female police officer, actually said, like, I wouldn't take into account on what's written on the internet. But knowing what was written on the internet was true because I'd experienced it myself. Now, I know that they're doing their job and they're trying to protect me and my feelings and my thoughts and what I'm going to do and everything else, and I can understand their job. Now, the male police officer who chatted to me and talked to me as well, he was very indirectly saying that I should basically, toughen up a bit, man up. I can understand where he's coming from again, but it's the last thing I wanted to hear because I was really going through a bad situation in my life at this time. So after Sussex Police left, after about 45 minutes, they were chatting to me and we went through about the whole thing about me being in care between the age of 3 years old right the way through till 18. I am going over 3 minutes on this, but I'm just going to carry on because I'm on a roll. So the next thing I'm thinking is, what am I going to do next? So I worked out in my head that I've told Sussex Police, they've got it, they've reported it, I've got a case on it. So I thought, how else is there for me to be able to deal with this? I thought, you know what, I'll get my doctor's files out. So literally it was either Boxing Day after the day after I'd been visited by Sussex Police, because I'm sure that was Boxing Day or the day after Boxing Day. And then literally I got to the stage where I went to my doctor's, which is literally around the corner from where I live. And I went in there and asked for my files, on my doctor's files, to be released to me. And they said, well, your files aren't here. And I said, okay. I said, like, well, how long will it be? And they said, well, normally it takes 10 days to 2 weeks for your files to arrive because they're in central storage location. So I said, okay, fair enough. I'll wait 10 days, 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, I get my doctor's files. Now, if anybody, the situation which I've gone through, and you cannot find your files on your care plan while you're in the care system, go and get your files from the doctors. Because in the doctor's files, it will show why you went to the doctors, the reason, what prescription and what things they gave to you and did for you. And also it'll tell you the address of where you lived, the postcode of where you lived, and the person you lived with. So now I have an idea of all the places where I lived throughout my whole life, from the age of being born right the way through till my age, which I'm 46 now. I was born in 72. So this is all connected with getting information on the Anna Wilson home run by the Salvation Army. Because on the point where I wanted to find out the most about my whole childhood was really I wanted to know the most about the information which was connected with me at the Salvation Army Children's Home called the Anna Wilson Children's Home at Tankerton. And it showed it right there. I have got proof that I lived at the Anna Wilson Home. And I've got proof of all the different locations where I lived throughout my 18 years of my childhood. So the next thing I'm thinking of doing is this. I'm thinking in my head, my doctor's files have arrived. But I've got to take you back before I got my doctor's files. While I was waiting for my doctor's files, which took 2 weeks, at this time, during Boxing Day and getting my files, I visited my mother. Now, unfortunately enough, my mother has been mentally ill all my life. She's had relapses about 6-7 times throughout my life. And it's been tough, it's been hard. But I've cried so much about it. And I've gone over about it. And I've always blamed myself because of my mother being ill. But apparently, she's been ill all her life since she was a child. She was 3 or 4 years old when something seriously happened to her. I can't go into details. Something else happened to her when she was about 12, 13 years old. Now, all of this information I can't divorce because it's because of my mother, it's about my mother and everything else. Now, what I can say is this. I went to visit my mum when she was in a psychiatric ward. Before Christmas of 2017, my mother had a relapse. She basically had a breakdown. It was a mental breakdown. She was sectioned, and basically, I think she wasn't sectioned at this time. She was sectioned at a later date, but I think at this time she wasn't sectioned. But she was seriously having a psychosis. She got sectioned at a later date. Sorry about that, I got that wrong. But she was seriously not well. And I went to see her and talk to her. And all she kept on talking about was the paedophiles. The paedophiles who were working in the children's homes where I lived. And unfortunately enough, there has been serious abuse. There has been child abuse, paedophile abuse of all sorts. Sexual, physical, emotional, child neglect. I mean, it has happened in the children's homes which I've lived in. It hasn't happened at all of those places, of all those different types of abuse, but there has been forms of abuse reported. So I can't go really too much into that because this is really mainly about the Anna Wilson Children's Home. So I'm going to get to the end of this video now, because I feel like that the next section I'm going to do is, after visiting my mother in hospital, it wasn't really that good. It wasn't coherent. She was speaking about 5 different languages, and when she was speaking English, she was speaking certain things, and you know, at the end of the day, I've got to take everything with a pinch of salt. But everything which she said to me, I actually already knew about. So it's not like as if I hadn't heard of it before. So I got back home and I looked after my friend back home after I visited my mother. Now I know what I'm going to be doing next is this. I thought the only way of me being able to get closure on information such as memories, going back to places where I lived, I thought this is what I've got to do next. And at a later date I did. But until that time, I then started to report the information about my files going missing and about the information with my files being lost. So at that time, that's when I got in contact with the ICO, it's the Information Commission's Office, and I got in contact with my local MP. Now, before you go and report to the ICO, you've got to first of all have a reason why you've gone to the ICO. If you've asked for some information and you put a complaint and it hasn't been dealt with, then that's good enough for the ICO. If you've asked for information, they haven't given you the information, that's good enough to go to the ICO. So I'm going to run this off to the end of this video now, but at the end of the day, that will be another subject for the next video. But all I can say to everyone is like and share this video, and remember, this is me, so I really can't run videos short like I'd like to, but you know, it's just not me. But I will get off this video now and wait for the next video, and the next video will be on me getting in contact with the ICO and me getting in contact with my local MP. Okay, have a good day. Thanks very much for listening, and I will be in contact with you within the next couple of days for my next YouTube. And this is the end of video 4. Okay, thanks a lot. Have a good day. Bye.